We are live. Welcome to the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast, week 16, Christmas edition. I am your host, Chris Kirkwood, screen name Kirk Dees, with my main man, the head honcho over at Occupy Fantasy. I know he's in the holiday spirit today, but Brian Jester at Court Jesters, or screen name Court Jesters at, I don't even know what your Twitter is. I always forget, but you can find him pretty easily. Anyways, it's my boy. He's here. We're here to break down week 16. What's going on?
At Brian Jester FF, if you're so inclined. What's up, Chris? Merry Christmas to everyone out there listening. We've got a 2-game slate on Saturday on Christmas, so you can ignore your family some. And then we got the full slate on Sunday with a lot of big contests. So I'm pumped for it. I'm ready to talk through the slate.
Yep. As you know, the show is presented by Yahoo. Yahoo is just ridiculous. They have Christmas presents for all of us too this week. So we've got the nice 2-gamer, but really where they shine this week on Sunday is they are offering 2 huge overlay contests. So one every week, it's the $1 Million Baller, where it's guaranteed overlay, 200K overlay. They lose 25% of the management fee. So they are literally losing $200,000 on this contest, if not more, if it doesn't fill. It's got a great structure, great payout structure with 100K to first, and good structure all the way down. But then they offer this $1 everyone wins jingle baller, 100K to first for $1. They are losing 900% management fee on this one.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm not a math guy, but it sounds pretty good. I am a math guy, actually. But anyways, the thing I wish we could max enter this puppy, but it's a single entry. But literally, there's a $1 million prize pool, and if they fill it, there'll be 100,000 entries of $1 each per person, 100K to first. So you can literally put a buck in. Deposit. They have a new deposit code. I don't know if we have a new RotoGrinders one, because we've always been Grinders 25, right? But they're doing $100 deposit bonus now, so they've increased it. So I don't know, and I'm sorry, I should know that. But anyways, you're already playing over there if you're listening to this. But if you're not, jump in this. Even if you just came upon this podcast and you just want to throw a couple bucks in for fun, or it's not big on Christmas, get away from the family. That's going to be hounding you all weekend. So $1, you could win 100K. You're going to win your money back anyway, at least. And then jump in the $1 Million Baller too. So Yahoo's doing it right. Plus their single games have been fire for me this season. I can't remember the last time I lost one. So that's a little bit of a brag here. Unfortunately, last night I was duped with everybody. So, but it was still nice. So I love these single game contests. So jump in there. Hit me up on RG Discord if you want to talk strategy for the single games and whatnot. And also check out Occupy Fantasy, because they do their Yahoo bankroll builder, which has been moving all season long. And they also have a lot of great content and showdown specific stuff, because I know Brian, that's where he really shines too, has had some huge wins. But anyway, we're here to talk week 16. Let's get after it. We've got 11 games. The things that stand out to me is, again, it's just kind of just a mass slate where it's not very exciting. We don't have any 50-plus point totals that we had throughout most of the season. And also one thing I've noticed, I've been dabbling a little bit in betting here and there. It's like, just bet every NFL under lately, right? Because COVID is killing their practice schedules, also killing their rosters, available people. Coaches seem to be playing more by the book and a little more conservatively. Like even like last night, Vrabel and was just
running on like 2nd and 18, and if you get a lead, you sit on it. It's crazy.
Punting it with like 4th and 1, 4th and 2 when it was like basically at midfield, and Shanahan was the same way. They were both. So it was like who could be softer? Who could play more conservative last night?
So tilting.
And I think that's a common theme around the league too. And so I think like it is. I'm thinking just keep pounding these unders until proven otherwise. But anyways, so the highest total is the Rams at the Vikings. Rams are 3.5-point favorites, 48.5-point total. With big news in that game is that Dalvin Cook hit the COVID list, right? And so looks like he'll be out. So Alexander Madison is chalk again, and it seems to been working out great so far this season. You know he's going to be cheap on Yahoo. So you got that. Then the next game is Chargers minus 10.5 at the Texans. 46-point total. Big news there. The Chargers looks like Austin Eckler COVID looks like he's going to be out. He's telling people on his podcast to pick up Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson is $12 on Yahoo this week, playing the Texans. I would roster Head Chopper against the Texans at running back. And Texans on the other side, though, Brandon Cooks hit the COVID list too. So, I mean, COVID is just rampant, running through all these teams. Then from there, we've got like the Ravens at the Bengals. We don't know if Lamar's going to play. It's looking like he's not, but he still could. And that game has a 45-point total. The Steelers at the Chiefs. Chiefs are 8.5 favorites, 45-point total. Chiefs are the new team that really get decimated by COVID. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce both on the COVID list. I guess there's a chance that they can still play. I think they have about 24 hours to test negative. But as we were talking before the show, Brian told me that it's not only is the line indicative of them not playing, but they're already moving game plan like they aren't going to be playing this week. So they're preparing for the worst, and it's looking like that's going to happen. But we'll see how it all shakes out. So pay attention to the news. How's the slate looking to you?
Yeah, pretty gross, right? And I think we have the 3 value running backs, which we'll talk about, and then we have the one game that everyone and their mom's going to stack with the Rams and the Vikings. So there's I think a lot of lineups are going to end up looking similarly, and that's on Yahoo and that's on FanDuel and DraftKings as well. So, I think there's a lot of places to get different. And even like last week over on FanDuel, we saw Devontae Adams get up to 50%. Like, it wouldn't surprise me to see Cooper Kupp get it above that range or even higher on all 3 sites just because of what the value allows you to do. So it's a really interesting game theory slate because a lot of the good plays are really obvious. It's just you have to think about how they can fail and what that means if they do fail.
So, okay. Cooper Kupp is $41 last week. And I know I said a couple weeks ago, I think I said, Kittle could fail, and he was $33. Like, that was big. He didn't fail, but like you did see last night, he did fail, right? Like he had a massive floor game. And when these guys are high priced like this, they don't have to go. There's such risk of ruin with them, right? Like, so everyone's going to be playing a chalky Cooper Kupp, which we were like, when he was $27, when he was $30, when he was $32, and he was breaking slate after slate after slate. And he started off slow in this last Seahawks game. He got there like he usually does, but that doesn't have to always happen. He's 20, he's probably going to be 30 to 50% owned, like depending. He's like projected ownership like 30% around a lot of places right now. He's going to creep up because people are just it's just too easy with all this running back value that keeps going. So it could be anywhere from 30 to 50%. He's $41. If he doesn't score some touchdowns, if this game turns into more of a running game, which is very possible, there's a lot of ways that this could ruin your lineup. So I'm with you there. I think it's pretty interesting on how we attack him, and we'll get into that. So that's going to be a key decision. The running backs seem like the easy good chalk, but maybe getting different there and catching some ceiling games from some other guys could be a path to victory this week. But let's start it off at QB. We'll talk about our value plays and our favorite main plays. Right off the bat, I looked at value and there wasn't much I liked. It's been the theme for the last couple of weeks going that we've been at this spot. But I did write one down. The first one would be Justin Fields for me at $23 if he plays, which I think he will play. But he didn't practice on Thursday, so there is some concern there. He somehow I ended up that was one of the showdown slates I binked to on that where they called that a touchdown of the last play.
Dude, I don't even want to hear about that play.
sorry. That helped me. That was another. I mean, I was just running pure right there, because that took it home for me. And the guy who had it had a solo ship for $25K, and he went down to like I think it was like $700 or $500 or something,
I feel
or maybe even less. Yeah, on that one call. Anyways, he's running, which he's a little bit more, 7 rushing attempts, only 35 yards, but the danger is there. He also threw 39 pass attempts. He's looking a little more comfortable. He's not the greatest passing talent that the league's ever seen, but he does have his connection with Mooney. This is Minnesota is a defense that's been pretty exploitable so far. So I can get behind that. I always say this guy, and he sucks, and I don't know why I mention him, but Matt Ryan is sitting there at $25, and really it's just about a matchup with Detroit. Now, if this game breaks right, if Detroit doesn't shockingly, win this week, like, and just roll over the Falcons like they did last week, then this game could be interesting. This game could also be terrible, right? Jared Goff is now going to be out. I don't know who they're running at quarterback, but I guarantee you he's not good. And this game just could be awful, right? But if the Detroit has a really pathetic defense, so they're 26th in DVOA versus the pass, 29th versus the run. Matt Ryan, in theory, could get there, right? Like Kyle Pitts could be an easy stack target, although Pitts he did have a good game, decent game last week. Still hasn't no shot of ever sniffing the end zone, it seems like, with this guy. But Cordero Patterson is still a decent weapon. Russell Gage has emerged. His price hasn't really followed suit on Yahoo, so he's in play. He's worse play on some of these other sites like FanDuel and DraftKings, but I think on Yahoo is still very doable. So that's one I can get behind on the value end. Then the main plays I'll just leave because we're gonna probably like all the same ones, and I'll let you start it.
Yeah, it's another week where we don't have to play value because of all the value at running back that we keep alluding to, right? Fields, I listed him as well. Drew Lock, if you want to go, if you want the min price option, maybe Mac Jones. But again, I'm not really interested in those guys down there. For me, it's Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and I guess Josh Allen, and then those guys stand out from a projection standpoint. But then I'm guessing, Chris, how do you feel about Stafford, Cousins in the highest total game?
Josh Allen against my Patriots.
I'm not again
without Gabe Davis. No,
I know, or Cole Beasley. So I don't think I'll play him in my main lineup. We know his upside, but I think Hurts and Herbert for me are the two main guys.
Yep, they look like the two main guys, and then we have a nice little range right next to them. So Herbert, definitely, I wrote down number 1 against Houston, 10th against DVOA versus the pass, 27th versus the run. But this is definitely a matchup that he can excel in. He might use his legs a little more in this one. Eckler is not there, his main rushing security blanket that also is there through the pass game for him. So I think that gives a bump up to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in the passing game. And obviously Jackson is cheap. So a way to, Jackson catches balls. So you could since Jackson's price so low, I don't mind playing him in Herbert stacks and, making it a double stack or whatnot. But I think the best way to get different would be to hope that he doesn't have a big game and, play Mike Williams or Keenan Allen or double stack both of those ones. It's probably not going to be that low owned, but definitely lower owned than a lot of the field should be. So the other guys from there, and Jalen Hurts I love. The guy, it's just so easy if he runs, if they allow him to run, he's going to smash 2 rushing touchdowns. He should, the thing is here is that what's so shocking to me is Miles Sanders doesn't have a touchdown this season.
Because they keep running quarterback sneaks and quarterback keepers around the goal line. Like they're literally designing plays for Hurts.
And it's so easy. And when they don't call it, when they veer off of that, it's like, why don't you just run it with core QB sneak? You know what I mean? Right. It's like so automatic that I see that working again this week. So against the Giants, who are just have mailed it in, don't have much resistance to offer. besides the fact that the old New York Philly rivalry going on here. But so you think Philly will be up for this game? They certainly need it for their playoff chances. They did just get the win when they needed it. But Hurts is definitely looks like a solid play. But then we got to talk about Stafford, Mahomes, Brady. That's like that. There's like warts on all these guys. Stafford hasn't had the huge ceiling. He's going to be popular because optimizers are going to jam him with when you set a rule to play a quarterback with at least one pass catcher. Well, Cooper Kupp's going to be jamming into those lineups, and it's going to automatically throw Stafford there with him. So the ownership is going to be inflated on Stafford, I think, for what it should be. But still, the upside is there. He's got tremendous weapons. I don't know what. Maybe you do Van Jefferson. Maybe you do Odell Beckham Jr. to get a little different, but you certainly can play him with Kupp, obviously. But if you want to get away from that chalk, recommend some other ways. We can also play the running game on that game. But Mahomes, 37 versus Pitt. It's going to be tough if we don't have Tyreek or Kelsey to feel pretty confident about paying $37 for Mahomes. But Pitt has been atrocious, but really where they've been bad is against the run. And so I think this is going to set up for a Clyde game. But we know that doesn't always work out when things are set up for a Clyde game. But then there's Brady against So it's Mahomes without his weapons. It's Brady without his weapons. But he is getting Antonio Brown back. They do have Gronk still. And Perryman is certainly interesting. And then Ty Johnson. So I think, we saw how if Brady doesn't have his weapons, he absolutely fail. But I feel more comfortable. Like there's definitely, he already has that chemistry with Antonio Brown. So people are going to say that I think there's going to be a lot of narratives going around, like at least on different shows and whatnot. People are going to talk about, coming first game back from COVID, people overestimate it. Like the Myles Gaskin situation, which I got burned. I played a lot of Gaskin last week. How I missed Duke Johnson, I don't know. Guy hasn't produced in like 10 years of DFS, but somehow, it's like I knew the running back on the Miami was going to do well, and I just didn't know it was going to be Duke Johnson. Anyways, so people may say there's a huge range of outcomes in Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Brown is just going to step right in and be just fine. He's lived with Brady. They've worked out in the off season. They're friends. They have that little bit of time in New England together as well. So I think he's going to be just fine with Brown and Gronk. I think Ronald Jones, yes, it's a ding to the passing game, because Leonard Fournette is pretty good at catching balls. But I think Ronald Jones is fine as long as he doesn't miss on some pass blocks.
God, I know.
Which which is how he fails. It's been notorious. And then they'll use Keyshawn John. Is it
Keyshawn Vaughn and now Le'Veon is there too. So
yeah, but I mean Le'Veon is such dust that I just can't see that.
I agree. But here's the thing. So for these quarterbacks, right? Like Mahomes hasn't really gotten there in recent weeks. And now is he going to get there without Tyreek and Kelsey? I don't know. And then Brady, no Evans, no Godwin. The big difference is, right, like obviously he looked terrible in that primetime game. But when you have a week to prepare, it's much different than when you lose your weapons mid-game. So I think they'll be fine for sure. They'll build around AB and Gronk. And the key thing with these guys is, like, if you stack Brady and Mahomes with these cheaper weapons, cheaper than usual weapons, now you're automatically building different than the rest of the field. And generally, when we have these smash running backs, I'm all for playing a ton of them. But like Justin Jackson could split. Rojo, like you just said, there is the possibility of a benching or fumble or something. And then I think Madison's a smash play. But like there are ways that these guys fail. And if you play a quarterback with cheaper receivers and load up at expensive running backs or elsewhere, I think it's an interesting tournament idea.
My last honorable mention I'm going to throw out there is going to be Russ. I just have a thing for.
It wouldn't be a show if he didn't every week.
Yeah, Russ and Lockett, right? Like Lockett's my guy with him. He's coming back now. He's overpriced. He's $27. Lockett is, I believe, he's 27. So what's Metcalf?
Not cheap enough.
He's 24. Yeah, I hear you. It's been a rough season for him. But anyways, I'm going to look that way myself. I don't know. Anyone else you think? I mean, obviously Joe Burrow, we can always do.
Yeah, I think the Burrow-Huntley matchup is interesting. So, but again, I mean, because again, there's not really that many game stacks that are appealing. So I think there's a merit to a lot of different guys. If you find one that you like and you like the stack, then I think it's certainly okay to play it this week.
All right. Let's talk. Moving on over to wide receiver. We mentioned the chalky Cooper Cup. If Tyreek were to go, I would like him in this spot. But I'm not sure what to make of him. But Keenan Allen, Mike Williams get bumps up. Deontay Johnson is a target. He's constantly just leading the Steelers in targets. He had a rough game in the last one, but they had a rough game in general. They should at least be able to be more competitive if Kansas City's without all their star players. So maybe Big Ben can do something, but Deontay Johnson would be the guy there. Justin Jefferson is just an absolute beast. Kind of a little bit of leverage off of the Alexander Madison chalk if you want to just play it that way. Maybe if you want to play Kirk Cousins, which we didn't mention, to Justin Jefferson, I think that's completely viable. I'm not gonna play Diggs at 27 because I'm a New England homer, and I just I'm just gonna watch that game, just be a fan, not have much DFS exposure to it. Might go and drive to New Hampshire and put a huge Christmas bonus bet on the Patriots, but we'll see. I don't know. What are you thinking out here?
So for the main plays for me, it was three clear ones. For me, it was Kupp, Jefferson, and Antonio Brown. And then the values, if Tyreek is out, if Kelsey's out, you have Byron Pringle, who's cheap. Mecole Hardman, I guess you could go there as well. Then there are a bunch of like pretty thinner plays. Nico Collins with no Brandon Cooks. Cortland Sutton is somehow the minimum price. Kenny Galladay, DJ Moore. Emmanuel Sanders with no Gabe Davis, no Cole Beasley. He'll be the clear number 2 for Buffalo. But I think that the key, a point that I want to bring up instead of just listing off all these plays, is that we talk about Kupp, Jefferson, Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen. Most weeks, at least for me, right? Most weeks, outside of game stacks or quarterback stacks, you're limiting yourself generally to one player per team. But I think this week you can certainly open it up to multiple teams where you can have 2 players from the same team. Like, it wouldn't surprise me to see Madison and Jefferson in the winning lineup, or AB and Rojo in the winning lineup without their quarterback. So I think just be a little more flexible out there with adding multiple players from the same team, even if you don't include their signal caller.
I agree, and it's just a pricing thing, right? So it's like the what we talk about this in NBA all the time. Everyone's like, how many players can I play on
every single slate
on X team? What's the max amount of players I can play on this one? Like, there's some set answer. There is never a set answer. It's just pricing, right? It all comes down to how much they can score off of their price tag, right? So obviously we know that Jefferson can have a big game, and Alexander Madison can get in the end zone once, have a decent rushing game, and they both get there, right?
Yep.
And it gets even better when you look at Justin Jackson, because he's $12, all right, exactly, at running back. And so I agree. I think you got to be a little more flexible this week. Sometimes I set rules to not include these running backs in there, but I think this week I'll be doing it. I think other kind of lower owned plays, I think Darnell Mooney certainly he is the target monster with a ceiling. He does have that big play ability, no matter who's at quarterback with him. So I don't mind him for $16. Man, I'm trying to look here.
I like Renfrow too. I don't think anyone's going to play Renfrow after his down game, but the dude was seeing like a ton of targets, and he's overpriced, right? So like, I don't think anyone's going to play him. So I think for tournaments, I like it. I like him.
I was just looking there, and then I saw the 25, and I was like, no, I'm not going to say that. No, but
we've been playing him at like $16 and $17, right? No one's going to want to pay him at 26.
Yeah, I do like the Denver rushing. So let's finish up at wide receiver, and we'll go, and I'll lead it off with some Denver running backs.
Okay. Marquise Brown got peppered with targets by Huntley last week, and then your boy Jacoby Myers. It looks like Nelson Aguilar is going to be out. He didn't practice again today with his concussion, so that frees up some targets in the pass game. I think it's a pretty safe bet. They passed more than 3 times this game against Buffalo, so Jacoby Myers had a ton of opportunity in that Indy game. I think he can carry it over to the Bills game as well.
I mean, it's going to be interesting because we don't know if Ramondre is going to be out.
Right.
Hasn't practiced pretty much all week. And then Harrison and his hamstring. If these guys are good to go, I expect them to another run-heavy game plan. But if they're not, they're going to be forced to pass it. And, it's going to have to be Jacoby Myers. I don't trying to look for like something to catch my eye to talk myself on.
It's a rough week, dude. It's a rough outside of the main plays.
I kind of like Russell Gage. I think $17 is just fine. It's just, he is what he is. It's kind of he's like a poor man's Hunter Renfrow in this situation. But $17, I can get behind that. But let's move on to our running back. This is where all of the interesting plays, or at least the chalk. And so interested to hear your thoughts if we're gonna want to just eat it all or take some pivots away. But Alexander Mattison leads the way at $16. We've seen what he's done in games without Cook. Just a really solid backup. And the thing is like they don't really have a good backup for him. So he's always been a good backup for Dalvin. And now he's kind of like the only game in town. Yeah, they still have him. Some other like who else is behind them?
Nwangu, the rookie.
Is that Boone? Mike Boone? Is he still there or something?
He's over in Denver. They don't know. It's the Madison show, front and center.
I have no clue. Anyways, I'm going to be playing Madison. I'm going to be playing Justin Jackson because he's $12 and looks like going to be the man against Houston. Houston is 27th in DVOA versus the run. I just can't see him failing. I mean, could be pass heavy script, but $12, I just really can't see him failing. Ronald Jones at 18 is a little more interesting because we've been down this road in the past, and he's done something stupid to, they're just any excuse they can find not to give this guy more carries or passing game work or to get him off the field. They've done in certain situations. He's an electric running back. I think he's really strong, like runner. I've always been pro Ronald Jones. Carolina is a kind of a tougher matchup, but they're 24th in DVOA versus the run. They've struggled against the run, so he's definitely a good play. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is an incredible play this week without their weapons. I think we've seen other teams just gash Pitt over and over by the run, and the thing that stood out to me is they're 30th in DVOA versus the run. And I was looking at it, I was like, how the heck did Pitt become 30th in DVOA versus the run? Well, they just Dalvin put a huge game on them. They got also last week. Who did they play last week?
Tennessee. Foreman ran all over them.
They just ran all over him. So I think the script is there for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And then the top range, I love James Robinson. He's kind of the one guy I have circled, but I'm interested to hear some of the guys you like.
I mean, it's those five for me too. It's Alexander Mattison, Justin Jackson, Ronald Jones, James Robinson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And when I noticed that we got the three main running backs that were values: Madison, Jackson, Ronald Jones. And again, this is a little bit more for DraftKings and FanDuel because Ronald Jones is priced up at $18 here on Yahoo. But there was a very similar situation earlier in the year when Dearness Johnson was the chalk, and then Mark Ingram was kind of the secondary chalk, and then Ramondre Stevenson became a bell cow back. But it was late on Sunday morning.
That was the easiest freaking play in the world.
I know, 3% or 5%, whatever it was.
I didn't play it enough of it. I had him, and I was like, and I called it. And I remember chatting before with a Pat's friend of mine, and he was like, I would bet my life that he outscores Mark Ingram today, like my literal life. Yeah. And he did. It was obvious. So yeah.
So I think we'll see Madison end up in that Dearness Johnson range where he's like 40-50% plus. Justin Jackson probably ends up in that Mark Ingram range where he's 30 to 40%. I don't know where Ronald Jones ends up. I don't think anyone's going to be in that 5% range like Stevenson was, but I think there are tiers to this where Madison is definitely the best. Then it's probably Jackson, and then it's these other three guys. So I think it's interesting to see how people are going to play it. To me, it's play a ton of Madison. I'll play a ton of Jackson, and I'll play a ton of all these. I'll just get a ton of exposure to these five running backs. But the question is, do you pivot in how many lineups to Najee, Patterson, Montgomery, Barkley, Jacobs, Mixon, Miles Sanders, like all these guys who are clearly worse plays from a median projection standpoint, but they could outscore them given touchdown variance.
Yep. The question I have for you now is on this hiring. So I love James Robinson just because of I'm always a James Robinson fan. I had some big weeks when nobody was on him last season. Anyways, he's only $26. He's the clear guy. Hyde is out, gone still, he got 18 rushing attempts last week, got passing work, 6 targets. So that's pretty damn valuable. If this is all about the matchup, it's the Jets. The Jets are dead last in DVOA versus the pass and the run. They're dead last defense, and they're missing like their entire team with COVID this week. So, it just seems like they'll just feed Robinson. He'll have success, and they'll just keep feeding him, right? Like there's really no one to go to from there. So I think he'll be on the field even in like blowout scenarios, and I think he's going to have a massive game. So it's tough for me to get away from him. Some other guys I think are interesting pivots. I know the workload hasn't been there for Cordero Patterson as of late, especially with the targets. He's not running the routes that he was running before. Did get 11 rushing attempts, but I think he can be pretty darn efficient against Detroit in this game. And so I could see him going off. He's overpriced at 27, but that makes it more interesting for GPPs. David Montgomery, it's a tough matchup, at least on paper. Seattle is much more vulnerable through the pass, but he's got monster touch upside, and he every week, 18 rushing attempts last week, 6 targets. Again, that's a monster workload. There's room for more. He's had 23 carries in the game this season against Detroit, back in week 4. I've always been pro David Montgomery. I know the general consensus, everyone thinks he's bad and stinks. I think it's been completely unwarranted. I think he's been stuck behind a bad coach and a bad offensive line. And we saw, when they started to get a little bit better, that he started to thrive. The same thing was with, we've seen it over and over again with running backs. Everyone calls them dead, and it's really just the offensive line. Todd Gurley comes to mind. When he was the worst running back in the league, everyone thought then he became the best running back in the league, until his knees came out. It's funny how people rank these running backs. But
how do you feel about Miles Sanders this week? With
I was just about to look. Just looking at him. So, he hasn't practiced this week. I guess he's a little dinged up, but I'm not really worried about that. The thing is he hasn't had a touchdown. But so I guess there's like two thoughts there. Like touchdown regression has to come for this guy, right? But I hate that they have all these damn running backs now. And Jordan, I just don't understand why they even give Jordan Howard a snap. Like why he's there, why they brought him back in. But they do. They like this guy.
They did say this past week, because of a shorter week, they gave Jordan Howard most of the second half work. So hopefully, if that's the case, Miles Sanders gets a full workload of touches on Sunday. But again, like you said, like we can't really predict that, and we've seen it every single week play out that way.
And he doesn't have a touchdown all season, and Hurts is like an automatic touchdown if they want to run it with him. Then when they get down into the goal line, and I think they should just keep doing that. So it's tough. I don't know. I'm trying to look at some other guys that I like, but I think Javonte Williams, if he's healthy, I hate Melvin Gordon. I think the talent is Javonte Williams for sure. I think it's so obvious to anyone looking. I think that Denver is going to run the ball all game, because that's what you do against the Raiders. The Raiders' defense has been bad. Their offense hasn't been great. That's what Denver wants to do. They have to hide Drew Lock, who's just a turnover waiting to happen on any play. So, and I think they're going to if you're going to have success running the ball over and over against this Raiders team, like they're just going to keep doing it. Right. And so Javonte Williams, this could be a big spot for him. I guess Melvin Gordon, you could say the same thing about, each of these guys. I'll side with Williams, but that's kind of my play this week. And then Sony Michel is, so when in this last game, it was a show. It was an island game. It was like the 2-game slate we had, right? So I was behind making my crunch, right? And I was, So I unloaded up, and then I realized I didn't even know what I had, because I had to get it in right the second. And I looked at my running back exposure, and I got like 50% Darrell Henderson, and I'm like, how the hell did I get that? Like, Sony Michel is obviously clearly the running back. So it was like projections. They just loved Henderson. Like nobody has adjusted the projections for Henderson. And I think the sentiment's still there. And so, like, you're still seeing these old baselines for Sony Michel when he's the clear guy now. So I think it's his job to lose at this point, and they're just going to keep riding it out. And I think he's certainly a way to pivot off of Cooper Cup chalk.
Absolutely, absolutely, and Michelle's I think is clearly the lead guy now, and the tea leaves were kind of saying that over the last couple of weeks, and it's played out since Henderson's return. The last point I'll make, and you did briefly mention earlier, but the Patriots running backs, keep an eye on that situation with Harris limited, Stevenson questionable with his illness. Maybe it's JJ Taylor, maybe it's Bolden, but again, there is opportunity there, and if we're looking for a direct pivot, if multiple guys are out or just one's out, then we might have a shot there.
I mean, if Harrison's good to go, I'm running with Harrison. He decimated this team when they played in the cold before that's where he injured his hamstring.
Yep.
It's hamstrings are always shaky, but if I get the sense that he's good to go this weekend, then and then I'll cover it. I'll run some Ramondre just to be safe, to have the backup there. But I think Harris could go off this. So my Homer Patriots take is, I think the loss. So they played the absolute nut low worst half they could ever play against the Colts, and then they made it a game with some questionable coaching decisions. I thought Belichick should have went for it on fourth down, things like that. And Mac put them in a bad situation where they should have scored right before the end of the half to at least make it more competitive. And he, threw that awful interception right around the goal line. And they corrected stuff, and they were able to move the ball pretty decently. And I think really what this is like the whole world, like you should have heard like the local media all about New England,
can't even
the
imagine.
Super Bowl, it's like people think this team is great. This team is not great, but they're well coached, and they're disciplined, and they get the job done when they're supposed to get the job done. Now, however, I think that loss was good for them for coming into this game with this must-win game against the Bills at home. And people also think the Patriots are that they showed their true colors. They suck. Max sucks. I think that's all overblown now. It's back the other way.
It's a
I think
pendulum,
they're
dude. Right? Recency bias. People look at it and they want.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And their defense is legit, right? And they made uncharacteristic penalties. Like they shot themselves in the foot in that game. So I expect them to come out really good this week. And I think they're going to implement a strong run game. So Damian, let's make sure we have some Damian if he's good to go. All right. You got some more? Or,
no. Let's go to tight end.
All right, tight end, and wrap it up. You got Christmas shopping still left to do? Are you ever a last? Here's my advice to anyone, at least for next year, because it'll be too late for them. The best place to go Christmas shopping on like the day before Christmas, if you'd have to, is Costco. You got a Costco membership, you can just go in there and you can find a gift for everybody in your family.
Interesting. Judging by the time that you upload your lineups, I got to figure that you still got some shopping left to do.
Yeah, last minute. Of course I do. Last minute. All right. Yeah, it's just the way I am. It's the way I'm programmed. But okay, tight end, Dallas Goedert, monster performance. We've been calling for him to, have some big games all season long. He's finally showed up these last 2 weeks. The Giants, another good matchup for him, certainly. $20 looks like a strong play. Mark Andrews, if Lamar plays, he's Lamar's go-to guy. If Hundley plays, he's definitely Hundley's go-to guy. I mean, we've seen him now peppered with Huntley in back-to-back weeks. 11 targets, then followed 13 targets, over 100 yards in each game, at least a touchdown in each game, 2 in his last game. Broke the slate, was a huge play the other day. So like that, Gronk is Brady's go-to guy. You would think it's going to be AB and the Gronk show. So he's there. That's kind of a really strong high end at tight end this week. And then we've got a little, Kyle Pitts, who I begrudgingly played last week, and it turned out like 9 points was fine. It worked. I needed him to like get like over 5 points, and it was a sweat at halftime. But like he got there. He got there. Yeah. But he's there. Jared Cook maybe on the cheaper end for getting a bounce because of Eckler being out. Giving them a red zone threat. He's always a red zone threat, and it's against Houston. Maybe Dawson Knox seems like someone that could be getting more targets with Gabe Davis out to me. But where are you looking?
Yeah, so obviously the main three, I think a lot of people are going to go that route, and I can't blame anyone for not going that route with Gronk, Goddard, and Mark Andrews. Yeah, Dawson Knox was the next one that stood out to me. He's a little bit cheaper than he has been the last few weeks. It's only $15, and with no Beasley, no Gabe, then that certainly helps his target share. I mean, it's rough down there, right? Like Tyler Conklin's $13 in a game where they should pass more. If Kelsey's out, I mean, if you want to play a $10 tight end, that's Blake Bell or Noah Gray, whatever. But dude, I don't know, man. It's rough. It's those three main guys, right? And then I think the pivots of maybe Noah Fant, Freiermuth, Kyle Pitts. It seems pretty clear that I think like 75% of the ownership is going to be on those top three guys.
Oh, and I forgot my name. My boy Hunter Henry.
Oh, he's coming off a huge game. Yeah. And if because Bourne's on the COVID list, Aguilar concussion, if it's just Jacoby Myers, which by the way that would boost him heavily, then then Hunter Henry's next in line for targets. So I think that's not
Henry is their he is their red zone threat. Like he is their red zone offense through the passing game. So I think the touchdown equity is massive there. Bills are a good defense for sure, but I certainly think that he can have a good game in this spot. And I also like you said, we both like Knox too. He did have 10 targets when they played, and they played a huge run heavy game in that wind game. And so he's their offense on from the passing game, in my opinion. Jacoby Myers has his role, but like you want the touchdowns, Hunter Henry is that guy. Yeah, I don't really have much else. Like maybe I'm looking at all these names. I'm looking at names like Evan Ingram, Noah Fant. I would say Fant, but not this week. I think they're just going to be running. Yeah, there's Cole Kmet would be maybe. Yeah. Gerald Everett would be a maybe. So a little bit of exposure to those guys. But like I said last week, just crank up your randomness or range of outcomes and get a little different at tight end. But we've got three main solid pieces. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. All right. What's your stack of the week?
Stack of the week is probably, I think, like you said, everyone's going to play Stafford and Kupp. I like the other side of that game. That should go way overlooked. Cousins and Jefferson, maybe Thielen if he's back, maybe Conklin, but pivoting off the Madison chalk and playing the passing game there. And then I think I got to go with the Brady bounce back, where it's Brady, AB, Gronk. I mean, it seems clear that if Brady succeeds, it's going to flow through those two guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love that Brady stack. I'm going to be definitely overweight on that Brady stack. I'm glad to hear you are on it too. So we're aligned. But I am going to go with something new this week: Russell Wilson to Tyler Lockett, and run it back with Darnell Mooney or David Montgomery, but probably Mooney because of the price. So I think you can get a lot of upside from Wilson to Lockett. And Lockett's overpriced. No one wants to play Russ. And then Darnell Mooney is a cheap value that goes against some of the other value here on this. I think you can make a good lineup that way. But that's what I got for the Christmas edition. Any last words? Any last thoughts? Let's get out of here.
Let's enjoy the 2-gamer tomorrow, and then just try to get different in some way on Sunday, because everyone's going to play it the same way. So just a little bit of differentiation goes a long way.
Call your bookie. Go open a DraftKings sports bet account if you can. Go to Bovada. Do whatever the hell you got to do. I don't care. But bet all your Christmas bonus money on the Patriots against the Bills this weekend.
Unbiased take. You heard it here first. So go for it.
Unbiased take. This is all stats, numbers. I've been crunching this. I've run the Sims.
There you go.
On this one, I've got about 1 million simulations in this one, and we got extreme value on the Patriots in this spot at home.
Hammer them.
All right, Brian, have a Merry Christmas. Yeah, you do celebrate Christmas, right?
Yep. You too, man.
Okay. Yeah, you too. And all of our listeners, have a happy holiday, a happy New Year, a Merry Christmas, anything, whatever it is. Just be happy, have a good time with family and everything. So. This has been the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast, week 16, and we are done. Catch you next week. Thanks.